We are supposed to be live. Gad, can you check on your
Yes.
side if we are live on LinkedIn? I'll check on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry for the
So
delay.
we are live
We
on
are live.
LinkedIn.
Awesomeness. Perfect. Then we can start this great new PhD Dojo.
Yeah. So happy New Year, everyone. First of all, we are January 19th. It's still good to
Yeah,
wish Happy New Year.
exactly.
Yeah. Um,
Mm,
so I will start. I will start from now. We've decided with David to do a reverse interview.
mhm.
Uh, from this topic, I do know anything about it, and I have a lot of questions for David. I think is more knowledgeable than me. So so we'll go from that. So it's Papa PhD and Second Lab
Yeah.
PhD Dojo. I'm sure you know what is Beyond the Scissors with Papa PhD because this is your audience, David.
Mhm.
Um, and and what was the Second Lab? So the Second Lab is a non-for-profit organization. We are based in Quebec, in the Quebec province, and but we we have we are working with student research centers, research organization everywhere in Canada, but mostly in the Quebec province these days. But we are based everywhere in Canada online, and we what are we doing? We empower early career scientists to for their career and to have an impactful positive impact for the society. This is our mission. But basically, we help them to get the jobs. So we are delivering programs, workshops, mentorship, uh, entrepreneurship, and it's growing up. So we are very happy for that. So sorry, yeah.
No, no,
So
it's fine.
so yeah, just to
To
tell
kind of
you what we're
restate, it's
doing.
the beginning of the year. I think it's good to reintroduce the
Yeah.
second lab. You have a great program of helping young researchers, be it
Mhm.
PhD, masters, postdoc. I have met some of them. I'm in your mentorship project,
Yeah.
not project, your mentorship program too,
Yeah.
which is great to be giving back to the community through that. Yeah, well, you're gonna ask something.
Let's go on the topic. So
Yeah, the
cognitive
topic, cognitive dissonance. Maybe
dissonance.
people now are feeling cognitive dissonance about what's happening with the show,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
it's the first one of 2024. And let me make my phone silent. First one of 2024, and it's always cool to reintroduce yourself, to say hi to everyone's out there. I see some of you are watching, or yeah, that are watching live. You can also
Hmm.
say hi. We have the comments here on our side that we can see and react to. But yes, cognitive dissonance. When you proposed that subject to me, I found it very interesting because there is one angle to cognitive dissonance that's really
Hmm.
interesting to me in this context of being in academia, thinking about your career, thinking about your future, your professional future. And I think, and I'm fairly sure from all the conversations that I've had and all the students that I've crossed, that there is a lot of distress and anxiety about your professional future. And I propose that it's a lot of it comes from some aspect of cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. So, David, can you define what is cognitive dissonance?
Well, an example that I've heard recently is, for example, you meet someone who, let's say, says that they're vegan,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And you know them for a while, and then you meet them at a restaurant, and they're eating, a big meat burger. And in that moment, in your brain, there's a conflict between what you know, what you believe, and what reality is throwing at you, and that throws us off balance. Of course, it's also part of living and learning. Some cognitive dissonance is what makes us understand new things, create new routines, reshape our reality tunnel, let's
Hmm.
call it like that. But when it's above a certain level, and when it's chronic in a certain context, and the one that interests us here is your career, minding your career project, your life project on the professional side when you are in grad school, and when you are in academia, well, it can become a hindrance, it can become unhealthy.
Hmm. Yeah, I heard another example, like the people who think that we are in environmental crisis, like we all thinking about it, and it's pretty frightening. But I'm taking my car every day, so and I'm not the only one. People buy very big cars. They take the plane, continue to
Hmm.
take a plane,
Yeah.
but still very sensitive about the environmental crisis. So and they rethink about it, like, well, I'm not the only one to do that. Um,
Yes. That's
there's
the,
still,
and
yeah,
the accommodation you can accommodate to some
yeah.
cognitive dissonance that you live with, for sure. We're all
Hmm.
human, and it's I think a reality for all of us. But some of
So
them can really throw you off balance and be
mhm.
deleterious to you in ways. You were going to ask something.
So finally, to be in the academic setup, and specifically for PhD, how do you see the cognitive resonance there,
So the
dissonance
the
there?
dissonance, yes.
Yeah.
What I see, and what I'd like to tackle is that, and I'm going to bring up an expression that a mentor of mine has used often, and each time kind of surprises me when he uses it, which is why live in a culture of or when you can live in a culture of and what do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that once you get into academia, you get this feeling of, oh, I got into this family, I got into this new reality, and now this excludes a bunch of stuff. This excludes me selling things. This excludes me being in the rat race for promotions in the corporate space, and it excludes me being part of a lot of the job hunting, etc. game, for example. Um, and then eventually it evolves to a kind of a dislike or an aversion for these things that we just said,
Mhm.
that everyone that's outside academia naturally goes through.
So it's a way to make for yourself a reasons why you feel this way, like,
Go ahead, expand a little bit. Let me
yeah,
see where you're getting at.
like like okay, I'm in academia, so I'm living in I'm living in a lab. No, I don't live in a lab in academia, but
Some
you
people,
spend some people have a couch, but
Andrew Huberman from the Huberman Lab podcast said
yeah,
in an interview with Rick Rubin that he, when he moved labs, lived
yeah.
for a long time in his lab. So some people do live in their
Oh my
labs.
god, yeah. I saw that when I visit Harvard, just where I saw some beds
Oh
in the
wow,
offices.
there you go.
I was very frightening. But anyway, um, yes. So you almost live in a lab, and
Hmm.
you are in this. You spend your day to do experiments. You are with your friends who are also PhD candidate, master candidates, postdocs.
There you go.
Your professor is there. You have a stipend, which is pretty low, more or less, depending where you're doing your PhD, but it's low.
Yeah.
And
You're not putting money aside for your home or for your retirement at that point.
yeah, exactly. And these days is very difficult.
Yeah.
So um, and finally, you've never seen the end of this PhD, and even if you see the end of this PhD, it's not totally the end. So
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
finally, you are in a I don't like to say that this is the ivory tower, but in the
Yeah.
context of
But I
cognitive,
understand what you're saying.
yeah, the dissonance, it's a little bit like that. So you have walls, and you don't want to see, um, you don't want to see what's going on outside, and you make your reasons. So
Well,
outside they are like this, we are like that. Yeah.
exactly. There's an or, so it's a culture of kind of separation. Now I'm here.
Hmm.
I don't. I now I'm here. I don't have to think about that, and I can actually put that out of my mind for now. And I feel that you said you don't want to, and also I feel that you are also kind of invited to not think about these things. You are invited to give your heart and soul to academia and
Hmm.
to the academic exercise. Uh, Not, of course, I'm generalizing, but as a culture, the academic culture tends to do that. You have to, you have to spend all your precious seconds of your day thinking about this project and thinking about becoming a professor and having a lab eventually, etc., etc., from day one. And that's actually the challenge, is the goal. You know, the goal is quite distant from when you, especially when you start your PhD. It can be 3 years if you're in the UK. Here in Canada, 6 years. I mean,
Hmm.
it can be a range of, but it's such a wide range that this kind of filter that gets put in front of you as you get into a PhD program, it kind of taints everything, and you're unable to look to or you're not so it's not so easy that you can project yourself to the after, and because you're focused, super hyper focused in the now, in this tunnel vision of getting these results, writing up these articles, and getting this thesis.
Yeah, and do you think that, I mean, the environment, so the others, because everybody in the same in the same burden, like the same boat,
Yeah.
um, and do you see that the others, the context of academia, the lab, um, nurture this kind of feeling, and we what you know what I mean. So
Mhm, mhm.
it's a group problem. Is it a group problem or is it individual problem? Like,
I th- no, I think it's a historical problem.
mhm.
It comes from
Okay.
behind, and it's a culture and a group problem. So if you're listening and or watching now, and you're struggling and stressing and having anxiety about your professional future in the PhD, it's not you. I am telling you right now, it's not
Mhm.
you. Most of us who went through graduate school, especially through the PhD, went through some kind of bring the ring to Mordor and come back alive, type thing. Where, sorry those who don't like the Lord of the Rings, but it's it's uh, it's um, it's a difficult process. It's a challenge to all of us, and that's why mental health numbers,
Mhm.
mental health issue numbers are high in graduate students, and I think in academia in general. Then the other thing is, there's a reason also why there's pressure in the system to work like this. It's because funding, as God,
Mhm.
is limited, and it's kind of a competition to get the funding that exists, and then there is a system of weeding out of part of the the pool of people that are in
Mhm.
the system, and then that trickles down to, of course, graduate students in a way. I don't know if you have a comment on that, but that's
Yeah.
one way I would answer your question.
Yeah, pressure puts a lot of things into the that system where, well, publish or perish. It's still there. Where even if the things have changed a little bit these years, but it's still there mainly. The pressure of grants. There's less and less grants, more and more PhDs,
There you go.
and PhD candidates. Let's say the labs are bigger than 10 years or 20 years before.
Mm,
Um, yeah, there's a lot of pressure and anxiety with this. Um, and but David, how do you think what we can do for that? Like how
yeah.
we should solve the problem? Because cognitive dissonance, we're not expert, but
Hmm.
at the end of the day, you have a resolution of that.
Hmm.
So,
Well, hopefully you do, and you try to have a resolution early on. um
mhm,
one moment, just to go back a little bit, one moment where you can feel this cognitive dissonance, and it's a typical story of people in graduate school, is the Christmas or whatever holiday season family supper, and then Uncle X asks you, "So, still in school, and you're doing your PhD. When do you get it? When
No,
are you
yeah.
getting a real job? And
Oh my
then
god.
you know this, right? You probably went through
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Oh my god. What are you doing these days? Can you tell me more about
Yeah,
it? Can you
when are
explain?
you the one that kills you is, so when are you going to be done with this and starting actually working,
Yeah.
that's a classic. But yes, there is a way to take care of this and to not suffer from it too much. And this is more and more difficult the earlier and earlier you are in your PhD. That being said, some people I've met are in their first year PhD and already forward thinkers, and anyway, that and I commend them, and I hope everyone could imitate them. But what happens is that you have to be conscious that when you start a PhD, somehow you can get this feeling that time has stopped. So my
Mhm.
cousin is now applying for jobs and try and having to interview, and then probably having to sell something or sell his time. I'm now in academia. I entered this bubble where time doesn't move at the same speed, right?
Mhm.
Where I'm
Yeah.
just, and now I'm going to spend infinite time, and I'm saying the feeling is it's not infinite. It's 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, but it feels like now I have unlimited time to do this academic thing, and hopefully I'm going to do it with a scholarship, etc. And anyway, I'm kind of going off of what I want to say. The real thing is, once that timer stops in your,
Mhm.
for you, in terms of how you feel, there's another one that starts immediately at that time, and it's the timer of when you are going to defend your thesis. Once you
Yeah.
start the process, unless you leave the PhD, which happens and is normal and is okay depending on
Mhm.
your situation. Once you start, the ticker starts counting of, okay, 3 years from now you're going to be
Mhm.
depositing a thesis and defending it, and then you'll be ejected out of the graduate school experience
Yeah.
into
Exactly.
academia, hopefully. And for a few of you, maybe 20% of you can do that, but for 80% it's not going to be in academia.
Mhm.
So the first exercise is to stop thinking, when you're thinking of your career and life project or professional life project, start right away thinking, this the PhD is a chapter in my book that's going to have this
Mhm.
many chapters. So one day I need to close this chapter and start a first one. And I don't want to have a blank page syndrome when I start chapter 3, let's say, of my life. I want to be ready. So yes, I'm doing a PhD, but the arc of my life is larger than that, and I need to stay cognizant of it and
Mhm.
start investing in preparing on that side of things.
Exactly. So the project is not your life. You are. It's not yourself. It's the project. Like, and the project has a beginning and has a end. And finally, is it really your project? I don't want to go there, but finally, is it your professor's project? Finally,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
yours. The professor is only the person that will continue the project, except if you become a professor,
Hmm.
and you
That's a
will
whole.
have the. That's
It's a
a
whole
new.
can of worms.
It's a yeah. It's another worms, but you're not your project. Your PhD project, and finally you're doing a PhD, but this is a way to see the PhD project is a reasons why to get skilled.
Exactly.
So it's
It's a
it's a reasons why to get through the process of research and science.
it's a trampoline
Or
for something that
yeah,
comes after, be it in academia or not, in my opinion.
yeah. So at the end of the day, PhD, it's an opportunity to develop skills. I'm seeing that very positively, not negatively, where I have a big burden to finish. Like, so it's a way to get skilled in a certain way, and yeah, it's an opportunity for yourself to develop your skill, and finally close the section of the book and
Hmm.
move forward to
Yeah,
another section of
exactly.
of the book.
And this is a point also where where people can have there's another aspect of cognitive dissonance in terms of your professional career as an academic,
Hmm.
that I kind of touched upon when I said talking about this family dinner where you're talking with your uncle. But
Yeah.
if you look back to your parents, if they are not in academia, what you're doing now doesn't resemble anything they've done professionally,
No.
and that's another source of cognitive dissonance, and of you can't have real conversation and comparison of my journey with your journey. You It's tough to explain what you're doing, and it's tough to explain what professional progress you're going to have afterwards, because we, even people who are outside academia now, don't have professional tracks that are the same as our parents had in the
Hmm.
70s and 80s. That's another aspect of cognitive dissonance. But I think there's I'm going to let you ask your next answer, but I think there's also a way to tackle that. So once I'm at the end of this process, I'm closing this
Hmm.
chapter. If I've prepared, and I can talk about that a little bit, and you can talk about that a little bit, because Second Lab is exactly all about preparing
Hmm.
beforehand. There's ways. There's an exercise that would help in not having being so anxious and not thinking, oh, if I don't hit this target, I'm going to be failing at everything, and that's one of the sources of anxiety.
Hmm. So, so you've said, like, if I summarize well, you said that, okay, we have to open a little bit the window to see what's going on outside. And do you have other tricks, like other kind of solution path?
Mhm.
Um,
I do.
do you
If you
see?
if you are in the Quebec area,
Yeah.
go and reach out to the Second Lab. That's one one big trick.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because that's your mission, right? And
Mhm,
I'm gonna
exactly.
let you. Well, I'm gonna answer, but I'm not gonna. I'm pulling a trick on you, and I'll
Mhm,
still answer your question. One thing to do is to resist temptation to tunnel vision into your project. And what I mean is, if there are seminars, meetings that are interdisciplinary or interdepartment, go to them, network with the people, the academic people, with peers or PIs, etc. Interact with something a little bit out of your own project's domain of study. That's the first
mhm,
step. So academically,
mhm,
then the thing that I think is really, really powerful today is create a profile for yourself on LinkedIn that may not be perfect, but that will be there, and that you'll grow and improve, and start seeing what are people with who maybe alumni from where I am doing my PhD. Where are they now in society? And of course, no, not everyone's on LinkedIn, but I think the sample is quite quite large and
yeah, yeah.
representative. So, and the common aspect to these both these things is building relationships with people that widen your network
Mhm.
a little bit more each month, each quarter, etc. Do you have anything
Yeah,
to add to this?
yeah, yeah. So there's multiple way to think about it. Before reaching the people, okay, reaching the people is one way. Like, it's very important. Networking is very important. I know that it could be very uh, frightening in the beginning.
Hmm.
So you start with people that you know, or you can contact an old friend or somebody who were in you were with them in the in high school. Could be something
Yeah.
starting from that. But there's another way to think about it, is see the project differently, more in terms of, there's a reasons why your project was funded
Hmm.
as a PhD. The reasons why is because your project is important as a long-term purpose.
Hmm.
But what if so you solve your problems, you solve a typical problems, but not don't see that only from the science perspective, but from, um, let's say, market perspective. So you solve a problem. Okay, what kind of area are you? If you work in, I don't know, in biology or cell culture or things like that, if you can work in engineering, in microelectronics, you can work in social science, let's say psychology of a typical populations. um, so you solve a problem. Have you ever meet the people, or have you ever know more about um, the sector that you would like to change?
Mhm.
So if it's cell culture, do you know the biotech company in your area? There's a lot in Montreal, for example. If it's a psychology of typical type of population, have you ever met this population? Is there other organization that work with this problem? Maybe
Mhm.
reach out to them. So reach out to the people with with your project, but from another perspective.
Mhm. Mhm. That's
That that could,
another no-
that could be something like that.
another great way to widen the net for sure. Sylvie Lemieux, who's watching us, is saying create a portfolio.
Mhm,
That's also very important. Today a lot of people are actually people in graduate school in research departments are starting to actually leverage their own research or an aspect of their research interest on social media, for example. LinkedIn is another place where people do it too in a different way. But yeah, creating a portfolio, having something you can that can trace your that people can trace back to read your work to or to read your production, your content production, whichever it is. If it's not written, it could be on another support.
mhm.
That's exactly true.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Like, how do you in French we say vulgarisation, vulgarize, how do you
Popularize.
popularize exactly? How do you popularize your PhD project? There's more and more and more, and exploding these days. Like, what kind of contest you can participate to think your project in another perspective, to
Yeah.
pitch it in a pitch it in 3 minutes.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of contest about it.
There
Uh,
are, yeah, and it's
in
always
fact,
spring summer that they're coming these
yeah,
years. Contexts are
yeah,
already
it's
announced,
coming
some of
these
them.
years. So scientific communications, it's a good way to network and talk about your project in another way than typical scientific publications or typical
Hmm.
oral publications. It's another way. So there's some ways to see the things in another perspective.
Yes.
Yeah.
One thing that I the one image that I like, and again, I mentioned Lord of the Rings before. Now I'm going to go to Marvel, but one thing an image that I like to share is the multiverse. When
Hmm.
you start your PhD, there's no way to know where you're going to land 3, 4, 5 years after. Not exactly, or it's very rare. Maybe someone who already comes with the great work from their masters and they're really lined up to do something, but it's quite rare. So I think the other exercise that might help you solve some of the cognitive dissonance and to get rid of some of the anxiety is to start collecting someone a friend who has been on the show, Fiona Robinson, said in her time she was doing scrapbooking. She was job posting, scrapbooking, if it makes sense to you. She
Hmm.
was not she was not looking for a job, but she was collecting as she was going through her professional journey. She was collecting job postings or parts of job postings that she really liked, and that kind of built the universe of where she found, or the multiverse of where she might be happy professionally in 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And
Hmm.
as a graduate student and as a young researcher, and this again, I want to say this, maybe it might be in academia, it doesn't have to be outside of academia, but I would say the, the same way as with your when you're investing your money, you should diversify, because if you're putting all your baskets in one, all your eggs in one,
Yeah.
I was switching all the eggs in one basket, it might be dangerous for you. So why not why not play with the idea of, okay, I really want to be a professor and have my lab, but let's see what people like me are doing and what could be a great alternate reality for me if that doesn't pan out. I think that's a simple one that you can do little by little as kind of a hobby, and that can help you a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, we have a good exercise for that at the second lab, like, and we deliver it. The last time we deliver it was I remember in October, November. I participate to one day a career event, and the first exercise we gave is just like, uh, tell me what would be your perfect day in 5 years, and you have 1 hour, and we are there to support you to go through that process of designing your perfect day in 1 year,
Mm.
um, in 5 years. So that was funny, that was cool,
Yeah,
and everybody was good for that. So
yeah, and if you're able
yeah.
to detach from all the emotion of now,
Hmm.
because there's a lot of emotion that you can be attached to of what you're doing now, you can be very involved with it, and it can be difficult to take a step back. If you're able to do that and project to after you get your degree, that's going to be very, very helpful. It's a great exercise.
Yeah. Do you see other stuff, or
um do I see other stuff? Let me see. I had some notes, but
hmm.
mm, 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 mm. Well, I know I just have an image that I can share at the end, but I right now this is really the key to me is
Hmm.
you are when you get into academia and into graduate school, there is this shift in the way time passes, in the way money flows into your account and out of
Hmm.
your account. It's a different setting than the non-academic world, but the non-academic world keeps moving forward at a certain pace, at a
Hmm.
more, let's say, accelerated pace,
Hmm.
from a certain point of view. And I think if you keep an eye out, if at the middle of your PhD start pacing and then jogging, and then and I'm of course I'm giving a metaphor for preparing for different possibilities at the
Hmm.
end of your PhD, then you won't stumble when you're ejected after you get your degree, ejected from graduate school and into the job market, which academia is a job market
Hmm.
too. It in a fast-paced one that and with a lot of competition. If you have started jogging and doing some of these exercises of enriching and nurturing your networking, but also widening your vision of what you could be fulfilled doing, the transition is going to be much smoother. You're going to be able to jump onto this fast going train without stumbling, and instead of having a full year of recalibrating and finding your bearings, in a few months you might already have that first job, which, by the way, will be the first of a chain of jobs, because that's how things
Hmm.
are now. So that would be my kind of last metaphor to kind of
Yeah.
sum everything up.
Okay, I think it's time to wrap up. So cognitive dissonance. So there's multiple way to yeah, cognitive dissonance. I will
Yes.
say it perfectly. So there's multiple way to solve that kind of problems. And finally, it's open your perspective um, in different ways. We've talked about like networking. We've talked about like thinking further your PhD, and also connecting with different kind of people, starting small, but step by step,
Hmm.
and not just seeing the project itself as yourself, but seeing the project as something that you have to do, and it start from the beginning, and there will be an end to
Yeah.
that.
And
Exactly.
listen to your spider sense, because cognitive dissonance,
Mhm.
you get this weird feeling when it happens, and be attuned to it and see, oh, okay, there's a dissonance here. Is it a healthy one that just wants me to
Mhm.
change my way of doing, or is it one that's a little bit bigger and I need to really manage it and find why I'm having it?
Yeah.
And for that, it helps talking with people around you, be it your peers or your support system. If it gets too crippling, let's say in anxiety, don't forget to that you have, if you're in university, that you have the mental health services there, if you
Mhm.
depending on your program. But I think, it's quite normal to have access to those
Mhm.
services. Don't hesitate to use them. That would be my last thing to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, perfectly. So I think this is the end of our episode.
This was
So
great.
that was cool.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
different.
yeah, very different. And yeah, thank you, David. So
Well, thank you, Sylvie, for being in the audience.
yeah, yeah, we'll go
uh,
to your website, Sylvie.
if you have a story about cognitive dissonance, if you're going through it, do write to dissonance at papaphd.com, and I'll see if I can share it, if I can give you a shout out.
Hmm.
But it would be great to have of some community stories to share with all of you, so everyone finds and understands that, oh, it's not just me going through this. It's
Hmm.
a human and common experience. And the good thing is that we are a great community, and there's a lot of help out there, and goodwill, and people like Gad, like me, who can who can with whom you can talk and discuss.
So thank you, everyone, for this PhD dojo, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Cheers.
Bye.